Hi, so today we're going to be talking about adaptation. Adaptation is one of the strategies that the city can use to help prepare us for climate change and specifically sea level rise. This episode we're going to be covering a little bit about what adaptation is and specifically what measures are already being taken and what the plans are for East Boston. Adaptation means responding to climate change that has already occurred or preparing for additional changes that are inevitable at this point. That means taking steps to ensure a sufficient water supply. It means planting different crops or shoring up coastlines against sea levels. Preparing for heat waves and cold spells and outbreaks of infectious disease. In East Boston, it specifically means preparing for sea level rise. Some short-term actions that can be taken for adaptation begin with Marginal Street and that flood pathway. So the city has identified that Marginal Street and specifically the area around Piers Park, the sailing center, the Greenway are at high risk of being flooded currently with the sea level that we're at right now. So it can only be even more at risk given that we are predicted to see about 9 inches of sea level rise by 2030. The current plan is to elevate some of the green spaces around the Greenway and to build a future Piers Park 2, which will expand the amount of green area that can absorb some of the water when floods occur. Additionally, there is a plan for a flood wall, again, towards the entrance of the Greenway, which will help to ensure that the properties alongside the Greenway, as you get deeper down, will be safe from flooding. Another short-term action would be protecting the Border Street flood pathway. So beginning with the 9 inches of sea level rise that we're predicted to see by the year 2030, Border Street is going to be at risk of flooding. And mainly a lot of the preparation for this and the adaptation involves getting buildings that are up to date and can really function with the predicted flood amount that's going to happen, and just making sure that buildings are ready to withstand those impacts. So alongside short-term actions, we're gonna need a lot of long-term actions. These tend to be a little bit more expensive and they do help us prepare for more of like the future long-term effects of climate change. So these are aimed more towards predictions of 21 inches of sea level rise by the year 2050 and 36 inches of sea level rise by the end of the century. Okay, so long-term actions will involve elevating parks and pathways around the Mario Umana and the Shore Plaza in order to protect affordable housing, residents, and important spaces like the Shaws and shopping centers. Additionally, Porzio Park and the Massport Harbor Walk will be elevated to address the flood pathway that could develop with 21 inches of sea level rise. And these are really important overall to help protect the larger neighborhood as the effects of climate change really pick up speed and momentum. It's important to note that the benefits of adaptation are really, really large, and even though the costs can be kind of scary looking and intimidating, these measures will help protect over 13,000 residents and at least 310 businesses, as well as drainage and sewer systems. They'll keep the harbor really clean and help maintain the well-being of the neighborhood overall. We're also estimating that these protections will help prevent about $1.3 billion in losses, which is huge compared to the cost of these measures. Adaptation will also involve just adjusting our lifestyles and making sure that we are prepared to deal with the effects of sea level rise and flooding, like purchasing proper flood insurance and making sure that we update our homes to make sure that they're prepared for occasionally being hit with a flood.